First of all, welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Your company is relatively young, right?
It is,
It's like
yeah.
5 years.
5 years.
And how much revenues you do? Or is that confidential? I heard it in the pre-calls.
There's numbers we can share. 500 million in ARR at present in 5 years. So one of the fastest growing tech companies of all time. I'm not sure who's keeping track of every single tech company of all time, but you clearly do. So, yeah.
Well, for Europe you're probably number one, for
I'd
sure,
hope so.
I think.
I'd hope so.
Well, there was rapid share, but that couldn't be, well.
There's some friendly competition, and it depends which graph you look at, but we have our own graph with a little
And
circle.
you're running the UK and Irish market, so you're very relevant for our England attendees.
It is, but it's always confusing as I'm from Canada, so nothing like sending a Canadian into the UK.
What did you do before Deel?
Prior to Deel, I was at Shopify in the early days, and I led the expansion into the UK, and I was only supposed to be here for roughly 6 months, but realized it's not minus 35 in the winter, and I never left. So I've been here for roughly 7 years.
7 years. And when did you join Deel, you said?
I joined Deel, I'm coming on 3 years actually. So when I joined Deel, we only had 200 employees and only 4 people on the UK team. Today we have roughly 300 people on the UK team, 4,000 employees. And I also oversee the MENA and Israel regions as well.
Also, okay. Well, for the ones who don't know, you get Deel when you want to hire people around the world and get benefits from the, I would say, different levels
Correct.
of pay and different levels of qualifications. And
Absolutely.
I guess both of them are relevant. And you help to bridge the geo gap, right?
Yeah, we do. So yeah, back when we were founded in 2019, we were effectively created to go ahead and help onboard and pay contractors in crypto. And thank God we didn't stay directly on the crypto lane, or else we probably wouldn't be here today. And what we saw is at a certain point, a lot of the companies that we supported had really good relationships with these contractors, and they came to us and said, we want to go ahead and actually convert them to full-time employees. So we had to go ahead and launch a model called Employer of Record, which is essentially the ability for companies to hire and pay remote employees in regions where they don't have an existing entity. So what we did is we went ahead and opened up our own entities, and today we have roughly 128 different offices spread out internationally where you can go ahead and hire talent. And what we do is we'd onboard them to our company, and then we contract them back out to you. So for all intents and purposes, we take care of all of the taxes, all of the mandatory benefits, effectively all of the behind the scenes. You still take care of the day-to-day management, but we make sure that you're paying them and hiring them compliantly. Very similar to what we saw from an EUR kind of route. Companies said, well, we have 50 or 100 people in this specific office. We want to go ahead and actually open up our own entity because it's more cost effective for us to payroll them directly. And then we started offering global payroll. Fast forward to today, we have roughly 16 different products, from the ability to hire and pay contractors to offer global payroll competing with the likes of ADP. So we've gone from being a small company, again, 5 years ago with our 5 first hires, to being a 4,000 person organization competing with some of the biggest organizations ever.
And if you ask yourself now, where do the candidates come from? They're brought by the client.
Correct, yeah.
And that was my first question. Since you have so much knowledge, right? And I'm looking for a Python programmer. So where do you get a Python programmer?
That's a good question.
You must have some data on that, right? Like where are the most Python programmers hired these days?
We do. It's actually Poland.
Poland. I have a Polish surname at least, and I'm half Polish. So
perfect.
Maybe I should start with my name there.
Good culture fit right there, right off the bat. But we actually ran a global hiring report not too long ago where we actually took 500,000 different data points that we have.
You ran a what?
Global hiring report.
So you do these types
We do these things, yeah, and we publish them.
Can you share to the NOAH attendees maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll send it out. But based on just that question alone, there's 3 actual key markets where we're seeing a lot of hires outside of the UK. So UK companies hiring internationally for software development, Python developers, and so on. The 3 big markets right now are actually the UAE, the second would be Poland, and then the third, Netherlands at present. So if we really think about like where talent's actually going.
Not India.
Not India, actually, which is surprising.
So is Fiverr obviously a different way? And we were talking earlier, and I'm going back to the energy market over and over again because it's so comparable. You could hire people and bring them into your office. You can hire people and have them at home, which is what most people do. And then you can also take people's time. So a Fiverr model, which Misha Kaufman, who I know quite well, and he spoke at NOAH many times, I don't know what they're worth now, but they went to 10 billion.
Yeah,
right?
they did well.
But frankly, the product for me has never worked, not once, right? So the question is, are these platforms which are a more opportunistic ad hoc, I have a need now and I want to try, are these being taken over by a more permanent hiring? Because the incentives are not aligned. If you hire someone for one job, he's trying to make you happy, but he's not really making you happy, right?
I'd say there's different avenues, right? So I think if you're like a really small seed company and you're potentially looking for a fix now, you might look to a Fiverr. But I think the industry that are looking at this are becoming more aware of the potential risk associated with not hiring someone or contracting them compliantly. We look at the Ubers, we look at the Deliveroos, and we hear about the suits that come up as a result of not hiring or paying a contractor compliantly. And it's the same with potentially hiring a contractor via Fiverr if you're having them come into your office and so on. There needs to be a certain limitation and arm's reach kind of engagement with these individuals. If you start having them into your office, giving them a laptop to work on, well, that bridges the gap of contractor to a full-time employee, which again can open you up to a suit if you potentially dismiss this individual. So there's a whole bag of worms that you could potentially go and look down if you don't do this correctly. So again, that's a probably like hour-long conversation in itself.
It's like really, I mean, there have been copycats of yours, of course, right? But
you said it, not me.
it's really a new sector, right?
It is.
And it's kind of, I mean, there used to be a company coming to NOAH, we're talking 2009, eBureau.
Okay.
And they had like a virtual kind of thing, but you're obviously taking care of very large companies. You said earlier something, when you're at 100, then you also now have products where you serve larger corporates that you don't lose them as a customer when they outgrow the Deel model.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you think about like the employer of record model, it's the ability to hire someone in a region where you don't have an office. At a certain point, you're probably going to say to yourself, well, I have 50 people here, I'm spending X amount. I can open up my own entity for maybe $50,000 or $100,000 and hire a payroll person. And ultimately run that process directly. What we're seeing though is there's a fairly large gap actually for running payroll once you open up an office. You don't know the legislation, you don't have the platform, you essentially don't have full visibility of all of these countries, especially if you have 50, 20 different locations. So what we do is we essentially provide an all-in-one platform. So if you think about most enterprise companies, they might use a platform for contractors, one for global payroll, and a global payroll solution for India, Pakistan, one for the UK, one for the Netherlands, and so on. We'll take all of those and we'll put them on one place because we power it directly. So you have a singular view. You can effectively pay 1 million employees with 3 clicks using our platform versus logging into 20 different ones.
And I guess all these ADP payroll processing businesses only do the local market.
Correct, yeah. So again,
so you shotgun all of them.
We shortcut it all. Actually,
shouldn't say that.
90% of our global payroll team is actually from ADP because they were so fed up with that process. So they've come now to Deel.
Oh, really? So you get the best performers.
It is. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Thank God that they published their...
Maybe that's why you haven't focused on helping people like me finding candidates, because they come to you naturally.
Yes.
So adjacencies or the future, like, I mean, Deel is obviously a big deal for all of us as a, I think, French original.
Yeah, so
European
again,
company.
Alex Bouziz is a Israeli French founder, and then our co-founder is Chinese, Shuo. So very international team. In fact, we have 4,000 employees in 105 different countries. So we drink our own champagne.
You're living your dream.
I am, in the UK countryside, so it's not so bad.
Answer me one last question. How many customers how big you have to be in order to go to Deel? For one person, it doesn't make sense, right?
No, it does, right? So a lot of, if you think about, again, when
my Python programmer,
like one employee. So we see a lot of companies in the seed round look to make their first hire, or potentially a co-founder. They effectively need to send them a contract and have them on board.
As early as that?
As early as their first employee. So if you think about, again, our 2 co-founders, when they were actually making their third hire, they actually used Deel to hire and payroll this individual.
Have you partnerships with an Amazon Web Service?
We do have a partnership with AWS. In fact, I was talking to them right before this. Very timely, yeah.
There are probably some other partners here, right?
There's tons. Actually, was backstage and a couple individuals came up and said that they were happy users of Deel as well. So it's always nice to have people in the audience. So.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Really amazing to meet you.